have a question I want you to consider. What happens when people feel like the world doesn't believe in them? Think about that. Let me tell you about a time when the world didn't believe in me. In 1998, I was facing the death penalty for a crime I did not commit. My father was a police officer, so naturally I grew up believing in the system my father worked for. Yet only 10 months after his death, I was falsely accused of taking a retired police officer's life. It didn't matter that when this crime took place in Harlem, I was in the Bronx with my 3-year-old and my infant son. It didn't matter that 8 eyewitnesses said that the man who took this person's life was a light-skinned black male with long braids and dreadlocks. It didn't even matter that at no point has any physical evidence ever linked me to this crime. The combination of my innocence and my belief in the system that my father served, it led me to volunteer for a lineup at a police precinct willingly. Of course, I never fathomed being selected in that lineup. Why? Because I didn't commit this crime. Yet that decision to stand in that lineup, it was the last choice I made as a free man until I was released by the governor through executive clemency nearly 24 years later. For 23 years, 7 months, and 8 days, I languished in prison, feeling my humanity dissipate daily. The impact of that destroyed my world as I knew it. I started with my first 2 years on Rikers Island, awaiting trial in a fog, unable to comprehend what was taking place. But once I got wrongfully convicted, it was over. Everything changed. They stripped me of my name and they gave me a number. My number was 00A2303, which essentially means that I was the 2,303rd person dragged through the gates of hell in the year 2000. When they gave me that number, everything changed. They stripped me of everything I possessed, even the hair on my head and my face. It was designed to strip me of my identity. Basic acts of kindness and compassion conflict with policy in prison. With a show of hands, how many of you would feed a hungry neighbor? We're not talking about a stranger. I'm asking you about your neighbor. What if I told you there are policies in prison where people can face punitive sanctions for doing just that? I know it's hard to ask you to imagine how incarceration impacts the soul. I mean, how many of you actually know what it feels like to live in a cage for a huge portion of your life? Or to be told that you're only entitled to 3 showers a week per policy? What if I told you that animals in a zoo are treated with more love and compassion than some incarcerated humans? How would that make you feel? The bigger problem here is that incarceration and the impact of it doesn't stop at the person who's doing the time, right? When I got locked up and I left my house, I left a huge void in my family. My mother and 2 sons suffered in ways you can't begin to imagine. My oldest son got involved with the criminal legal system at the age of 15. By the time I was released, he was 27 years old, but he was on the run He was running from the law. He had done time before, and he refused to go back. Understandably, the trauma of incarceration is too overwhelming to bear. So I started to spend time with my son. I started to bring him to the places where I volunteered. People started offering him opportunities. They started to see him as a person. You have no idea how that heals the soul after years of incarceration. My son started working as a justice ambassador at the Center for Justice at Columbia University. He started going into high schools and started using his story to impact the lives of the youth. He started to realize that people saw him as capable, able, and worthy of change. Within 9 months of my release, I was able to get my son off the streets. I was able to get him back on track with parole. And now, he's a legitimate person working, and he has 2 beautiful, adorable twins. Thank you. Some of you may be wondering, how did I do that? The correct question is why? Why did my son choose to change his life? And the answer is much simpler than any of you would think. My son changed his life because when I came home, I managed to get the community to believe in him, which in turn helped him believe in himself. That was the magic. And this is what we do at the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice. We create spaces to listen, to learn, to share, to be human, to show compassion to one another. The Douglass Project drives meaningful change in this world by offering real-time visits into prisons at Washington, D.C., South Florida, here in Colorado, and soon in New York and Louisiana. For those unable to attend these visits in person, we offer real-time virtual visits that anyone in the world can participate in. And guess what? It's free. The only way that we can truly understand what's happening inside that system is by being proximate, by going inside and speaking to the people who live there. They're the people who understand the impact of crime and incarceration like no other. So essentially what we do at the Douglass Project is we offer you an opportunity to go in there and to basically rid yourself of all the public perceptions and figure it out for yourself. You're able to ask people questions in real time and get real answers from people who know the system better than anybody else, right? And that's what's really important about what we do. Stop letting other people tell you what's going on in there. I spent nearly 2.5 decades incarcerated, fighting for my dignity and freedom because the criminal legal system didn't value my humanity, right? I know what it feels like to be ostracized from society, to be separated from the people that I love. I understand how easily a person can be broken. And that breakage, it spreads out through families, through communities. Just think about the residual impact that crime and incarceration has on generations of families and communities, right? I mean, I think by now you might be able to imagine what it can be like to be outcasted and forgotten. For a long time, that's how I felt. I felt like the world didn't believe in me. And right now, I owe my survival to the people who did believe in me. The truth of the matter is, without love, without compassion, there's no hope. And hope is the means of survival that individuals who are incarcerated hang on to. If you paid attention when I was referring to the system, I always called it the criminal legal system. I never called it the justice system, because justice doesn't exist yet. That's the goal. That's the objective. But we're not there. That's what we're doing. We need to have conversations with individuals. We need to become proximate so that we can understand this better. And when we do, we'll get closer to the goal. So let me tell you about real justice. Real justice cannot exist until we see each other in the light of humanity rather than its darkness. Real justice is not about freedom. It's about human dignity. It's about seeing people for who they are. It's about creating spaces where people can show up as themselves, right? Authenticity. It's about creating a space where people can learn from each other, find purpose together, transform lives. And you know how this happens? Through the power of human connectedness. My name is J.J. Velazquez, and as the program director at the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice, I am proud to invite you to take a stand for humanity and to join me in this mission and experience the power of human connectedness. Thank you.